journey of Triple O Farms started in 2017 and is his full-time dedicated work and passion. Technical analysis continues as his passion but not as profession. Triple O means out of zero. Farms is a movement and is actively working towards sustainable agriculture in tribal belts of Maharashtra. Triple O farms are providing indigenous seeds, making of organic input from regional ecology, working toward better soil health for a brighter tomorrow, and many more such sustainable practices. Let us welcome Mr. Abhay Bhatia ji and Mr. Karan Khandelwal with a huge round of applause. It's a pleasure to have both of you here with us, and you are the change for a better society. So, before I hand over the session, I request our principal ma'am to address.
Sure. Namaste, Usha ma'am.
Namaste.
Namaste, Mr. Bhatia and Mr. Khandelwal. It is such a huge privilege and pleasure. It's all the more. It's all the more a matter of pride because you are a product of Ramratna, and we want to give this glimpse to our children how the students of Ramratna have been making a difference to this world. What the world today needs is sustainability, and United Nations also has given the sustainable goals to the whole world, and we feel so proud of the young generation, the people in the young generation like you who are really following that path and making a difference to the world. Once the school reopens, we would like to have you formally, physically present in the school, and we wish to start with farming in our school once we are back to the normal routine. I welcome you and express my sincere gratitude to you for accepting my invitation and taking our students right into the farms. Thank you so much. Without any further ado, I would like you to take over from here. Thank you. Namaste to all my children, all the parents and teachers who are here. Have a great learning from Mr. Khandelwal and Mr. Bhatia. Welcome and thank you to both.
Thank you, ma'am. The pleasure is all ours. It is such a delightful thing to be here today in front of our past. The kids that we were the one of the benchers there a few years back, and it is can't explain in words how it is so pleasurable for us to be here.
It is such an honor that we are at least having a internet session with you guys, and we'll be much more than delighted to come and meet everyone. And farming itself is such an integral part now.
True.
We can't even express how delighted we are, and all thanks to you all.
Thank you so much. We all welcome you. Let's take it ahead from here. Thank you. Thank you.
Hello everyone. How many of you can identify this? Have you played these games before? Have you seen this? Like, and this is how it is played. You have to bring the gilli up, get it. Someone catches it. There are runs. That is where the cricket was inspired from, probably. So this is our basic game. Similarly, if you identify these are marbles. How many of you identify marbles and how many of you have played with marbles? Hello.
Suraj, mute yourself. Suraj, please mute yourself. Suraj Jain.
Okay, so kids who are online, how many of you all have played these desi games? Gilli Danda, then marbles, other games like Langdi and so on happening at school?
Me.
I also. I have played.
Here. Okay, there are messages here. Okay, sorry.
Usha ma'am, you're on mute, Usha ma'am.
Okay, yes, sir. Many of them are replying. They have played this. Yes, they have played. Good.
It's good to know because most of the kids that we see today are somewhere on phones playing some computer games like PUBG most of the times. So I'm sure like this is a game that we have grown up to. Hello, yeah. So these are the games that we have grown up to. Now, what are the advantages of these games? Let's understand that. Today's generation mainly is playing on computers, mobile phones, and they're not playing the games which are desi games, the indigenous games, which belong to our land. Indigenous and desi is something that belongs to our land, which is ours. And that games have been lost with time. Basically, our connect to mud is being lost because of that. So let's like the games which we are playing today, the computer games or the games on the phones, the PUBG or any other games that we are playing today are very good games. It's not that they're bad games. They are helping us to do strategies, to use your brains, to use something. But in the whole process, what we are losing is our gross motor skills and our fine motor skills. What I don't know if many of you all know about it, but gross motor skills are where all the muscles of the body gets involved. Like walking and running is a gross motor skill. Like aiming and hitting something or writing with a pencil are like fine motor skills. That is what we are losing with time because of these computer and this computer generation. So what we need is mitti, the mud, which is being lost with the time. Now, chasing butterflies or running behind caterpillars was our childhood. That is how we have grown up. That is what we have grown up to. But playing on the computers and understanding butterflies on the computers is something which is a change which has happened with time. So we are here to tell you, let's get connected to mud. Let's play games with our mud. Let's be with the mud. That is what we are into. Because right now also, if we see, we are in a pandemic, which is a very scary time for all of us. Now, why is this scary? We are from the soil. We are now on the mask. Why is that happening? What have we lost? Have we lost playing the bacteria that used to come from our mud, which is not giving us our resistance, which is not developing our resistance, and we are eventually wearing masks today. So we are here to tell you that we have to be in the mud, and we are going to explore mud over here today. That is what we are here for. So just to let you guys know, even the house over here is a mud house. If you can, wait, I'll take you guys there.
The camera is front facing right now.
Yeah.
So I'll just come now with me.
So what we are seeing now is a mud house. This is what can you see that?
No, not yet.
Okay.
So we'll just take you. Let me try flipping the camera if that's possible. Switch camera. Are you guys able to see now?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Ma'am, are we audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay. So basically, what we are about to show you is a mud house, which has been made by the children themselves. There was a little bit of assistance from us in terms of lifting of the bamboos or lifting up of the few of the things. This also includes picking up of the cow dung and placing it. So this is how basically the mud house looks, and this is totally made by children.
The idea is even living was before in mud. We used to live with the mud, we used to play with the mud, and we used to be around mud. So let's take this forward by understanding what role does the soil play, what role does plants play to manage that soil, and how important it is to, as a farmer, it's our responsibility to keep these things in, in the net, like in the network. Because basically nothing should go up or down. It has to be, everything has to be in a right sustainable proportion. So what we are going to start with right now is we have been eating a lot of vegetables. We have been eating a lot of vegetables in our daily life. Like, okay, kids, what vegetables do you guys eat at home?
All.
Students, any one of you can just mute and answer. Few of you.
Potato,
Yes.
bhindi.
All
Okay.
Acha,
I'm all.
all.
Nisha, all is
Okay.
what? I need names.
If you can name a few, that will be quite interesting for us as well.
Bindi. Cauliflower. Lady finger. Bottle guard. Lady finger. Cabbage.
There was a college.
Green peas.
Lady finger.
Okay.
Tomatoes.
Nice. I can see a list of vegetables here. So how many of you all know about wild food? Do you all know there are vegetables which come in the jungle without even farming? They are very high nutritious vegetables. How many of you all know about it? Is anyone eating wild food here? We have a beautiful school. There's so much wild food there.
No, they are
All
answering
says
no. No.
Meaning says no.
Okay.
Quite a few no. So
It's a fruit.
yes, let's start with.
So over here,
Let me switch the camera again.
so this is very easily available in Mumbai, Maharashtra, anywhere. It's a blossom plant. So basically, this part, the stem of the plant, is something that is being chopped and eaten. They first remove the skin of it, remove the leaves. The skin has been removed, and the plain stem has been chopped and made into vegetable. Again, it's a wild food. It grows in the wild. We don't have to grow it. We don't have to basically cultivate it. It comes naturally. Similarly, when we walk here, we'll see another plant. So in Gujarati, it is very famous to eat patras. I don't know how many of you all have eaten patras over here. Adu vadi, it's called in Marathi. Yes. So this is bhauri.
I haven't, but
This is the bhauri plant. Sorry, one minute.
Sir, I have had patras.
Can you see the leaf? So when this comes in the wild, we don't need to grow it. It is the planet, the earth gives us in abundance within the jungles itself, and very easily available in Maharashtra, Mumbai, anywhere. And you can make amazing patras out of this as well. Then if you walk forward, yeah. How many of you know teak wood?
So in a older house also in the garden, like this only wild plants used to grow.
Wow, that's amazing.
Wow.
So
So you're
you
happy that your knowledge is there about these things. That's superb. That's really encouraging.
okay? So how many of you all know about teak wood? Teak wood. Do you know you can eat the teak wood plant? Anyone?
Okay. Then
Basically, what you're seeing in the camera right now, that is teak wood.
This is a teak wood plant, and the newly grown leaves, which are reddish in color, this can be eaten. It has to go through a process of boiling, then removing the bitterness of it, and then it has to be eaten to make it edible. But this can be eaten. This can be made into vegetable. You can't use these leaves to make vegetables or eat, but the ones which are newly born leaves, these are the ones that you can eat. So I don't know how many of you all know this, but
Jayaram says yes, the is edible. That's nice.
very nice, Jairam. Amazing. And
Oh, isn't it?
so and again, the tender leaves of this plant. The plant is called koda. The tender leaves of this plant can also be eaten. So this is without farming. We are getting so much without farming. Do we really need to do farming? If we can get food without farming?
Will you switch the camera?
Yeah.
I think I'll have to reconnect. because the
Ma'am,
sound-
there's some connection issue. Can I reconnect?
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Will
Yeah, I'll
be.
just reconnect.
We'll just reconnect again.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Children, please keep yourself on mute. Yes, sir. We can see you. Yes.
Okay. I think we had got a call, so I think that is why we were not able to hear you guys. So we'll switch the camera again. Okay.
So this is a creeper, okay, which is called aerial potato. These tubers grow above the soil. They are not below the soil. So they are very similar in taste or very close in taste to potato. So we can call them Jain potatoes also, because Jain can also eat this potato because they grow above the plant. It's not below the soil, and they're damn tasty, and they are very slow release of carbohydrates. Basically, if you eat this once in a day, you will not feel hungry for longer hours. Can you see the plant again? I'll show you. This is how the leaves look, and it's a creeper. It's not a plant. It's a creeper. Yeah. So this is a small journey of wild food. Wait, hold on. I'll just switch the camera again. Hello. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, this is all wild food, and we are going to now go to the farm also. We'll visit the farm, but before that, let's understand a few things about farming, few things about sustainability, and a few things about living life with the mud. That is what our topic is. We have to be connected with the mud. So just give me a second. I have to just watch my step. Just hold on. नहीं, पहले उधर चलते हैं. Yeah. Okay, kids. So, how many of you are learning about my nitrogen cycle in the class?
I have heard nitrogen cycle, but does not know what is a nitrogen cycle.
You don't know what is nitrogen cycle. Okay, we'll see
I
that
just
today.
read in books and videos,
Yeah, sir. In videos.
but did not
Yes,
truly
yes, ma'am.
understood.
I've listened in videos.
You know what is
No.
nitrogen cycle?
No, sir. No, we have
Okay.
not ever learned.
I think grade 9 and 10 have this in their biology
Okay.
and EVM.
Any kids from grade 9th and 10th?
Yes, grade 9 and 10. EVM students, kindly answer. EVM students, biology students. Okay.
Jairam
Yes.
says that he knows, so we can ask him.
Yes. Jairam?
Ma'am, it is dead organic material is decomposed. All the nitrogen in the body, it gets transferred as minerals into the soil, which is then taken in by plants.
Okay. Anything more?
Okay. Anyone else? Grade 10 students? Yes, grade 10 students. Tanisha, we have Tanisha here. We have Deepal. Deepal, you can, yes, answer, Deepal.
Yes, ma'am. Nitrogen cycle is when we using nitrogen from the air is converted into nitrogen oxide by nitrification. We use that as nutrients in the root materials.
Okay, Deepal, you are not clear. Can you repeat it again, please, properly? You're not very clear.
Deepal, be loud. Be louder. Be close to your mic and be loud, please.
Okay. Nitrogen cycle is mainly the conversion of nitrogen from the air into it's cycled around from the air. It is nitrification is done and is converted into nitrogen oxide in the plant by these modules to use as nutrients then in the soil the nutrients are denitrified and again released in the atmosphere as nitrogen.
Right, Deepal. You're very close.
Sandeep, one more student wants to try. Usha ma'am, will you just check if anybody else wants to try?
Ma'am,
Vedant Sade, I believe.
Vedant, okay. Vedant, answer. Yeah, Vedant.
ma'am,
Speak.
I think the nitrogen cycle is a cycle in which nitrogen and its compounds are interconverted in the environment and in the living organisms, including nitrogen fixation or decomposition. Is it that?
Yeah, you're close, Sandeep. Okay, I have some questions. Okay, for you kids. Can plants, the leaves, the plant itself, can it take nitrogen to the soil? Any idea, guys?
Ammonia from animal waste products dissolve in soil in the form of nitrates.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So nitrogen, basically plants directly can't take it, but the roots of the plants can take nitrogen to the soil. So basically, when the nitrogen, more than 70% of air is nitrogen. More than 70% in atmosphere, I think around 77 or 78% is nitrogen. So that nitrogen basically can be taken and be fixed in the soil by the roots of the plants and not by the plants itself. So when when the roots take the nitrogen inside, the bacteria is inside the rhizobiums. I think it's rhizobiums. They convert the nitrogen into ammonia. This ammonia then further goes down to the roots by the nitrates is converted into nitrates, which eventually is taken by the plants in form of protein. This protein then finally reaches humans, animals, through plants, and then through animal waste it again goes into the soil. So that's the cycle. When eventually the nitrogen which is not breaking is left back to the nature by the soil. So that is the cycle. It goes from the soil, from the atmosphere to the soil to humans, and again from humans to the soil back to atmosphere. Right? Yeah, nitrogen fixing bacteria. True. So this is done by mainly plants which are monocots and dicots. How many of you all know plants which are monocots and dicots? What is monocot? What is dicot?
Yes, children. Any one of you, Janvi Gandhi, can you unmute and speak?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, dicots are the one with two seeds, two or more seeds, and monocots is like with one seeds.
Right.
Yes. Anything else? Yeah. Can you give example also? Yes, Ishan Chaudhary, you can speak.
Namaste, Principal Ma'am. Vijaya Ma'am has joined the session.
Wow, namaste and welcome, Vijay ma'am.
Oh, namaste. Yeah, thank you for letting me in. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Happy to be here.
Here with us.
Please continue.
Okay.
Yes, Abhijit, you may continue. Yes.
Any more answers for monocot and dicot, children? Yes, children. Yes, Aryan Agarwal, speak.
Yes, ma'am. Monocots have only one cotyledon, dicots have two cotyledons. Monocots have fibrous roots and dicots have tap roots. And then monocots have parallel veins and dicots have network of veins.
True.
On the leaves, yes. Any example?
Okay, we'll
Yes.
see the example because even I'm
Okay.
also exploring today itself. So let's see the examples right now. Okay. So
Yes, sir.
how many of you know hibiscus plant?
Hi.
Okay. And okay, I don't have a hibiscus
I
plant.
think
around,
mostly
but
we have many hibiscus plants in the school, so mostly they know. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes.
okay.
Yeah, we are getting answers. Yeah, many of them know
I have it in my
about
house.
hibiscus plant.
Yeah, Satyam,
Right
Pawan is
now.
in the
Okay.
That's true.
I also have in my house.
Very nice. Okay, so we'll just go to another dicot plant over here, which is Tarota. Tarota actually is a natural coffee also. I don't know how many of you know that. It is the, wait, I'll just switch the camera first. Okay, so the Tarota is, this is a Tarota plant. When they are small, like normally you'll see them in monsoons. I'll just show you around. So you'll just see small plants popping out right here. So all these are Tarota plants over here. Okay. Now Tarota, when the monsoon is over and when the summer comes in, the beans of that plant taste like very similar to coffee. It is a coffee without caffeine, you can say that, and it has lot of properties of high proteins. It has antioxidants, and which are very helpful for your body. And again, this is also a wild food which comes naturally. So this is a bigger version of Tarota plant, and as you can see, the stem of this plant is a thick stem. Okay. When you see the leaves of the plant, you just zoom into the leaves. Okay. Can you see the leaf? It has so many veins on it. Can you see that? Kids, can you see the veins?
Yes.
Okay. And we are seeing a very strong stem over here. It's not a weak stem. You can see I can't fold it easily. It is a strong stem. Okay. So these kinds of plants are dicot plants. Okay. And someone said that they have tapping roots inside. So let's see the roots also of these plants. We'll take a smaller plant over here. Okay. You have to hold the camera very steady. Yeah, just hold the camera. Please remove it. Easy. See, what we are seeing is the root is going.
Can you keep the
trying to go down?
Can you
It's
keep
like
this on the jeans here? Is it possible?
Yeah.
Children, are you able to see now? Is it clearer?
Yes, sir. This is
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this part of the root will start, as it grows, starts going longer, which is the tapping root. It goes right down. Okay. So these are the identifications of a dicot plant. Strong stem, veins on the leaves, many veins on the leaves, not a single vein. Okay. And tapping roots. And when you go to monocot plants, come let's see the monocot plant.
Now we'll show you what a monocot plants look like.
So
Let's go there.
we're going taking it to the rice field.
Are you able to see the fields?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Right here. There's a wild hibiscus called Rosella, Ambadi in the local language here. It's a beautiful flower which is edible, and they consume it with their vegetables and their dal. It basically plays a role of a imli or a kokum, what it does in the food. It brings the bitter little taste of imli and very close to imli and kokum. So again, this is the wild flower which is edible and very, very nutritious. So we are coming to our rice plot. Rice is a monocot plant. So if you see the rice, this is a rice stem. Okay. And if we remove one of these rice things over here, okay, we'll try and understand the root structure of it.
Yeah.
So when you see the roots of the rice, they don't have a strong stem which was like a tapping root. They spread. I'm not being able to show you clearly because there's too much mud on this right now. Wait, I'm just trying to remove. But as we see, the stem, it doesn't have a stem like a structure. So there is no strength in the stem basically. The stem is very small and brittle. And the roots over here are spreaded roots. They spread like an octopus, they just spread around. They don't go down. There's no tapping root to it. So these are monocot plants, okay? And do we know that now this is where the sustainability part comes in. How many percentage of plants that we grow for food I mean, how many percent of plants on this planet are monocots and how many percent are dicots? Hello, can you hear us?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So can you all tell me? Okay, so I'll tell you this. Monocot plants are less than 30%, somewhere around 24-25%, and dicot plants are around 70-73%. So basically, the nature has planned more than 70% as dicot and around 25% as monocots. So when you grow something in your field, okay, wait, I'll just try to put my camera. The camera guma na. How to change it? Okay. It'll come. Okay, sorry. So nature has made more than around 25% as monocot and 73% as dicot plants. Okay. Now, when you go into a field, how many of you have seen a farming field? It's
I
okay.
have seen.
You all have seen.
My grandfather has a farm.
Okay, that's amazing. That's good to know that so many kids have been to a farm field. And what I also want to know, how many of you all have seen different varieties in one farm? Have you all seen farm fields growing too many varieties?
Yeah.
Only one.
There are many.
Generally, yeah, but no,
Many.
no,
I have
in
seen.
one farm field I'm talking about.
Yes,
If there
only
is,
some I have seen.
you have seen many varieties?
Yes,
Yes,
Okay,
I.
okay, that's
yes,
very good. Okay,
many
so
varieties.
this is the idea of growing many varieties in one field is called mixed farming. And why do we do that? Anyone has an idea about that? Why do we need to do mixed farming?
To save the place.
To what? Okay, you're close.
So we do not need to use too many soil areas. So we can plant in one area.
I can't hear. There are too many people talking.
See, to save the place.
Okay.
Yes, Yaksh, answer.
Mainly, the farmers get a variety and the opportunity to grow many different crops, and their crop production increases.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And someone else to maintain the fertility of the soil. Okay, that's really nice. To balance the soil fertility. Okay. Spread of diseases in same species. Very true. So we are seeing some good answers over here. Basically, what happens is it's very similar to what is in your school. Are all kids same? Someone must be fast in running. Someone must be good in studying. Someone must be good at something else. Isn't it like that, or everyone is coming first in the class and everyone is running at the same speed?
No.
No, right? Everyone is different, right? But everyone is important as well. So that is how it is in plants. We have different varieties growing. We have different things growing, and it has to be in the same field for the same reasons as mentioned over here. It will help when there are different. Every plant has a role to play. Every structure has a role to play. Someone is fixing nitrogen. Someone is fixing some other minerals. So it is very important that we have variety on our field. So basically, it helps to maintain the soil fertility and also helps to control pest. Different kind of pests are seen on the field, and it is managed by different. It is managed by the variety which we grow in the field. So that is what I'm trying to show over here is some varieties of rice. Okay, how many of you all seen this colors in rice?
I have seen in white and brown.
You've seen this color of rice?
No, I have not seen that.
Not.
Right?
I've seen this color of rice.
But that is red color. The brown color is what we are going to show you now. This is brown color.
I have seen this one
And the white
Yeah.
one.
and the white
I've
one.
seen three.
I've seen white one and the red one.
Brown rice.
So right, so we are seeing a black rice, a white rice, a red rice, and a brown rice. Okay. So again, there is variation not only in plants but within the same plant as well. The same community of plant, like the rice itself, has a lot of varieties in them. Similarly, if you see over here, we are growing okra over here. Even okra has around 12 varieties. How many of you all knew the okra had 12 varieties? Okra किधर गया? So this is the wild okra over here, and I'll show you the okra field also.
Okra is lady's finger, right? Lady's finger, right?
Bindi, right? Bindi.
Yeah, bindi, right. Children, okra means bindi.
Yeah.
Lady's finger.
So did you know we had more than 12 varieties in lady fingers? There are almost 19
Yes,
varieties.
sir.
No.
Yeah, you knew that?
No,
No.
there's only one.
Okay.
I know only one green color.
Right now they are very small, the plant. Probably when they grow, I'll send you a picture. These are all different varieties. I've put one line over here of different varieties of them growing. So once they are grown, I'll probably send you pictures of how different varieties of okra look. And probably at the end of I have a picture of all 19 varieties together. At the end of this is a red okra over here. This one here, you can see, started. Red corn. Yeah, even corns. If you see over here, there's red corn, there's white corn. Again, the plants are very small right now because they've just been 20-25 days they've been planted. But soon we'll have pictures of them and we'll upload it for you. Yeah. There's turmeric over here. Okay, there's a monocot or dicot. Come on, quickly.
Dicot. Monocot.
Dicot.
The stem is strong, it seems. The stem is strong. The veins are not straight. There are a lot of veins in this. So what is this? I think it's a dicot. Yeah, it's a dicot.
Dicot.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So it's, as a farmer, it's a responsibility to maintain soil, to maintain the forest. It is very important that as a farmer, we don't only grow food, but we also, right here. Yeah. So it is also a responsibility to take care of the nature, right? Because we are the closest to nature. Maximum pollution in the world is actually not happening because of industries. It is happening because of farming. Do you all know that?
No.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So maximum of pollution is happening because we are cutting trees to grow food for our livestock, for eating, for different kind of purpose. But very few people know that there's so much food available in jungle itself. It is so important to maintain plants and to make sure that our carbon footprint goes down. It is a duty of a plant to fix that carbon into the soil. And if we cut these plants, there will be no carbon fixation in the soil. And eventually the global temperature increases. So maximum of tree cutting happens because of farming, because people need farmlands. So farming has to be done very, very, it's like smartly, or responsibility. It's a big responsibility on you when you're doing farming to make sure that you take care of soil health and also the environment. Again, I'll show you some more plantations over here. You
want me to switch the camera? I'll show you. Can I step down here? Which one is the Karela? Can you see this? This little plant? This is Karela.
Yes, sir.
So once it grows, we'll be able to see a much better picture and a better idea once it goes. These are small little babies. So we need to be very gentle, very loving, and very humble with them. These are as good as what a human child's babies are. The English name for this is bittergourd. So this is again haldi. Okay, varieties of haldi. English name for haldi will be turmeric. I think you all might be knowing about that as well. This plant, this little plant here, it's a creeper. This is going to be growing as a creeper. This is gilka, called as sponge gourd.
White. So you can see some pumpkin leaves here. This pumpkin growing over here. The whole plant is edible. The leaves, the fruits. It's a creeper, but it generally grows on it starts spreading on the ground itself, because pumpkin is heavy, so we don't put it on the bamboo structure. And you can see ridge gourd over here. So what I'm trying to show you over here is the variety. We have monocots in form of rice, corn. Then we have dicots in form of vegetables. Then, as I told you, rosella and many other vegetables. And if you see, the maximum plantation over here is of dicot, almost 70%. And you can see only 20% odd plantation of monocots. So that is how nature gives us in the same ratio. So we try to maintain the same ratio. So that is a part of sustainability. That is how we can maintain our soil. Right? So, kids, how many of you all have questions over here?
Students, if you have any questions, just type in the chat box so that sir can answer it, or you can just unmute yourself. But first, let me know who wants to ask the question so that you can directly ask the question. If anyone wants to ask directly, can unmute themselves and ask. And if you want to type in the chat box, you can type. Yes, children. Anyone has any question?
Yeah, Mini. I guess Mini
Yes,
Jaiswal has a question.
Ashita Jaiswal. Yes. Please unmute yourself and ask.
Yes, sir. So, why do farming can affect the environment?
Can you repeat your question? I'm not getting your question exactly. How does it affect the environment?
Environment. She's asking how farming can affect the environment. Like
How farming can affect the environment, right? So what happens is, when we cut the trees, okay, different kind of cut. We need to. What people do is, for getting farmlands to grow food, they eventually chop out the jungles. But the job of a bigger tree, which is there for so many years, it has the ability to manage pests. It has the ability to absorb more. The bigger the tree, it has capacity to absorb more carbon from the environment, and to give out more oxygen to the environment. Basically, when we cut a tree, we are disturbing the cycle. And when we do farming, we are growing small plants just for our daily consumption, which are available any which ways from the bigger plants and from the jungles itself. So that is where we are destroying the environment by cutting the tree. The temperature starts increasing, because as the carbon level starts increasing, the temperature starts increasing. And you all must have already read about greenhouse effect, so which leads to greenhouse effect later.
Okay, thank you, sir. Ashita, I hope your question is clear.
Yes.
Right? Now, Sanskriti, you also have a question. You can just unmute and ask.
Yes, ma'am. I had a question that, as sir told, that there are 12 types of okras. So are all of them edible, or some are jungly plants which we can't eat?
So basically, most of them are edibles. Only the wild okra, the variety of wild okras, are not directly edible, but they're medicinal. So they get into the medicinal use. You can't probably consume them directly, because they are very harsh on your throat. But almost 95% of them are edible.
Okay,
thank you.
sir, is it all like, are all of them green in color, or because I also didn't know that 19 varieties are there, like you
Yeah,
said.
there are different colors. There is white, there is green, there is red.
Oh wow.
And yeah, you find a purplish okra. you'll find a long okra, which is almost like 8 inches long, 8 to 12 inches long.
Oh.
And then you'll find the elephant tusk. It looks like elephant tusk. And then you'll find a very small okra, which is hardly 3 inches or 2 inches or 3 inches tall.
Oh.
So these are the kind of different varieties. I'll try at the end of the presentation to show you all the
Yes,
varieties.
sir. We would love to see it. Yeah.
Sure.
Further, I think who has Janvi Gandhi is asking, can we grow all these plants at home?
Yeah, most of them you can grow at home. You can start growing if you have space to put creepers also. You can grow creeper plants. If you have less space, you can grow plants in your pots. It basically needs good sunlight. So if you have access to good sunlight, if you don't have access to good sunlight, there will be different plants which will grow with less sunlight as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have something called as kitchen gardens. So when we generally work with farmers across Maharashtra and Adivasi regions. So we end up providing them kitchen garden seeds. So except grains, whatever they need for their daily consumption, they grow with that kitchen garden seeds.
Okay. Janvi, your question, you are clear with this? I think Aishani also had the same question.
I have a question.
Yes, yes, Janvi.
Ma'am, tea leftover the tea and some vegetable peels. Can we use that as a fertilizers?
Yes, you can use them as a fertilizer. There is a process of composting where the wet waste has to be around 30-35% and 65 to 70% has to be dry waste. So dry waste is in form of leaves, dry leaves, or dry stems of the plants. So you have to maintain the ratio of 70-30 and start composting. It has to have a little moisture inside, and anything that is high on bacteria, something like curd goes through a bacterial process. That needs to be added in a very small proportion to multiply the microorganisms inside. So you can do that in any kind of earthen pots which are breathable, or if you're doing it in plastic buckets or something, then there need to be enough holes for it to breathe.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Here, Yakshin is asking, why are monocots less than dicots? Is there any?
So the nature has designed it in certain way where dicots are at say around 73% and monocots are around 25-26%. So why this is so is because the kind of minerals which monocots fix in the soil and the amount of minerals that dicots fix in the soil. There are different kind of minerals which they fix into. Someone is doing nitrogen, someone is doing phosphate, someone is doing something else like potassium. So these are the things which are being fixed by the plants in the soil, and all plants have their ways to do it. So the ratio has been set by nature to fix that inside. So it happens in that particular ratio. So monocots fix certain kind of minerals, and dicots fix certain kind of minerals. So what has to be fixed by dicots is more than what has to be fixed by monocots.
Okay, thank you, sir. Jishnu, you have a question. Can you unmute yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I had a question that is there any expiry for brown rice? If yes, why?
Okay. So expiry as in such, there is no such expiry. The rice basically over here, which you are seeing, but I'll show you the picture again. The rice which you are seeing over here, this is dehusked rice. When the rice grows, it has a husk on it, and before it comes to you, the husk of the rice has to be removed. And when the husk is a protection layer for the rice, so when the rice stays in the husk, it generally doesn't expire. It has to be just kept in a certain way so the pests don't attack it. So the only risk of rice is pest attacking it. And if you can protect it by pest, there are natural ways to protect it from the pest. And if you take care of that, the older the rice, the better it is. It gets more aromatic, it gets more tastier with time.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. What about the brown rice?
Yeah, any rice, be it brown, be it black, they all grow with a husk. So if you want to keep it for a longer time, you have to keep it with the husk. If you remove the husk, you're removing the protection layer, and then the pest attack will be sooner. So this kind of rice may stay for probably 8 months to 1 year, which is the husk. But the one with the husk may even last for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years.
Okay, sir.
If it has been
Thank you,
properly.
I think Arisha, you wanted to ask a question. You had some
Yes,
doubt.
ma'am.
Yes.
Uh, I have a doubt that you have grown so much plant in a farm. Like there are a lot of plants grown on different places. So when a plant is totally grown or it is ready to come or it is ready uh, to be used. So what do you do means with the soil? You use it or you remove and you put a new plant to it.
Yeah. So once the plant is, the fruits have been harvested in fruits or grains, whatever forms come out, the harvesting process takes place, and after that the roots of the plants have been removed, and as per Kharif or Rabi season, the seeds have been planted in the same soil. The soil is not changed. It's just the older plants are removed from the roots, and again wherever there is dicot been planted, we try to plant monocots there, and wherever there is monocots planted, we try to grow dicots there. So the ratio of the soil starts to be maintained everywhere.
Okay, so if we use that same soil for another plant, it would it would it harm or would it affect the plant which is growing?
No, but we have to just make sure that we grow it alternately, or once, like if you are doing it at home, say in a pot, if you grow 2 dicot plants, the third one has to be a monocot plant. So the soil starts getting the required nutrition from the atmosphere.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so tell me, mining, how many of you know what is mining? You must have heard the word mining. Right?
I know mining little.
You know what is mining? Yeah. Okay.
Even I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Many of us they know, huh?
Even I, sir.
how old, how old would be the concept mining? How many years are human being mining for, say, a different kind of minerals? We mine for crude oil, we mine for gold, we mine for coal, for a lot of such things which are required to us. How many years it has been? It's been what, 200 years, 100 years?
Yes, children.
It's okay. It could be any number. Even I don't know the number. You can. It must be. It won't be many years, right? For minerals, right? But have we thought about a process which is happening since thousands of years? Are the plants mining something from the sky and fixing it in the soil?
No, sir.
Then how does that mineral reach to the soil? How does nitrogen reach to the soil? How does carbon reach to the soil? All these are elements which are reaching to the soil. Who is putting that in the soil?
Nature.
Nature, but through what? Plants, right?
Dead organic
Yes.
matter.
Yes. So how important are plants? That is what we have to know over here.
It is natural. No
Right.
one
It's a
puts
natural
it in.
process. Yeah. So I think plants are doing that for us. Don't you think so? As I right now only explained what is nitrogen
Yes.
cycle, what is carbon
Yes,
cycle.
sir.
Yes.
Someone is doing it for us. I think
Plants
it
are
won't go there automatically. Someone is putting it for us. Right.
No one.
Plants is the answer. Right. Plants is doing it for us. So when we are cutting plants, how much disturbance are we giving to the planet? Have you thought about it? If you look at a plant just like a plant, but if you look at it like a machine of giving oxygen, the perspective towards plant changes, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we have to maintain the biodiversity. It is very important that we don't only need fruiting plants. We need all kind of plants. All plants have their job to do. All plants have their role to play. So next time when you see a plant and if someone says to cut it, and if it is not a fruiting plant, it doesn't mean it is not important. It is very important to have all kinds of plants, right? That is what we learned right now.
Every plant has their own duty, own
Right,
job.
right.
Okay,
Very
sir. One question is here. Vanshika is asking: can we grow wild plants at home? The wild plants which you show, can it be grown at home?
right. Vanshika, wild plants mainly come only during the monsoon season. They need certain kind of atmosphere. They may not grow indoors, but if you have a compound in your building where you can put the roots of it or you can put the tubers of it, they may come in your or the seeds which grow, like say tarota oil, which we saw. Eventually, you can remove the beans and plant it anywhere in your compound or anything. In the rainy season, in the monsoon, they will come. But if you put it in the house, they won't come in the indoors.
Okay. I hope, Vanshika, you got your answer. So, any more questions, children? Students?
Yeah, Usha ma'am,
Yes,
something.
Yes, ma'am. Sorry.
So, Mr. Abhay
Yes.
and Mr. Karan,
Yes, ma'am.
we have Miss Kavita Singh who has just joined us. Kavita ma'am is the current principal of Ramratna Vidya Mandir.
Wow. Okay.
You must be aware we have two schools. Ramratna International School that I'm heading is relatively a new school, just 9 years old.
Right.
So, I hope you would like to know that Miss Kavita Singh, the current principal of Ramratna Vidya Mandir, is in this session right now. Welcome,
That's
Kavita
amazing.
Didi, and good morning. Very glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank
ma'am.
you very much. And it is very you don't know, just think that you have made me happy, as well as I think you people are also very happy. So so it's
Right.
very nice to see you both. Lovely.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Very-
Coming
very-
from you, it's an honor.
Thanks,
We'd love to
Kavita.
visit the school soon for the
Yeah.
same thing.
So, Abhayji, I have a question here.
Sure.
I would like you to tell the students why are we calling it as sustainable? Why?
Okay.
Why is it called sustainable?
Right.
How is this organic farming sustainable? And how can
Right.
children in the schools do it in their own campus? In short, if that be answered. Thank you.
All right. So, Jaya ma'am had visited one of our schools, which is Polymath School, where we have been growing plants and different kind of vegetables in Bhiwandi. So, this is very similar to why we call it sustainable, is because we are working on diversity. When we grow something, we don't grow one kind of crops. As I told you, we as a farmer, it's a responsibility to maintain the diversity. When there is diversity, the soil health remains nice. If the soil health remains nice, the carbon in the soil is taken from the atmosphere and fixed into your soil. Nitrogen from the atmosphere is fixed in your soil. And that is where you can take care of global pollution and a lot of other things, which is very important for survival of humans and other animals and other life on this planet. It's very important today when we are growing food on different kind of chemical fertilizers or different kind of chemical treatments. We are killing different kind of microorganisms in the soil, which are helping us to go through the process of carbon fixation, to go through the process of nitrogen fixation, and which is not very needed for our soil, because there are other things which are getting disturbed because of the process. Hence, as I started, when we are doing farming, or we are doing growing plants, or we are maintaining forests, it's a responsibility to do that. That is where sustainability comes in. It has to be, farming can be done in a lot of ways. There could be a destructive farming, which is generally happening all around the world, which we need to stop, and we need to move towards olden ways, where there was no chemicals, where there was no fertilizers, where there was no kind of insecticides. Yet farming used to happen. Yet people used to eat food, and still the kingdom of life kept growing.
Thank you. And I also understand that there is no use of chemical fertilizers, and that is why it is not impacting the environment in a negative way. Hence,
Even one more thing is, when we talk about plants and animals, we don't even lot of us don't know about seeds. Seeds is a something what we can call as a mother. Okay. Now, when mother is young, when mother is giving birth, she is strong. That is why there is more life on this planet, because mothers are giving generations to the next generation, and the cycle continues. But when it comes to seeds, it is very important to maintain that cycle. Like today, maximum farming which is happening on the seeds which don't give generations, which are made in the laboratories, all the seeds. But the natural seeds which the farming used to happen on was the one which used to give generations. So if we are what we eat, what we need to eat, we need to eat stuff which can give generations, which can have fertility, which can have good nutrition, which doesn't happen with the seeds that we get in, which are made in the labs. So nature has given us something. We need to stick to the nature. I hope I'm clear with this, or too much for the kids. I don't know, but this is
No, sir, you're clear. So, in your farms, you don't use chemical fertilizers. It's only the organic fertilizers, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yes, children, I hope everyone who has asked over here about chemical fertilizers, about using fertilizers, you are clear. That is what sustainability means, if I'm not wrong, sir. Right?
Yeah.
That is, you're not using chemical fertilizers so that the soil does not pollute the environment and we can grow the plants.
Not and even
Others.
maintaining the plant biodiversity. Both
Yes.
of them together.
Yes. Okay. So I think
About what we get from the nature, we are giving back to the nature. So it all
Right.
remains within the nature. That's how it
Right.
is sustainable. Like nitrogen from the environment being taken by the plant, and when the plant, it's also released back. Same way for oxygen. So it's
Right.
all the nature in a very natural way. Nothing
Right.
is forced with the use of chemicals or any complex technology.
Right.
Okay.
Many, there are a lot of white plants in your school. Your school is a very beautiful place. It is my school as well. So it has a lot of white plants there.
It's not.
It's just
It,
we will identify.
Very much safe.
yes, we are. We will be doing this once our school reopens. We are just waiting for our school to reopen. And yes, children, we are going to do it. Don't worry, you are all going to be a part of it. And yes, so it was an amazing session, that live session where we could, sitting at home, we could see all the plants. We could really get that experience of it. I know my children must also have enjoyed it. Now, I think there are no more questions, children. Are there any more questions?
No.
If there are
Any
more
teacher?
questions, you can email me also on
Yes.
it is abhay@tripleofarms.com. abhay@tripleofarms.com. OOOfarms.com.
Okay. So now I would like Richa Agarwal. Ma'am, we can ask Richa Agarwal to say the vote of thanks now. Can we? Yes, Richa, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Yes, Richa.
Namaste. It's my privilege to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of our school. Firstly, I would like to thank Abhay sir and Karan sir for taking out their valuable and precious time for us and teaching us about sustainability and farming. We will surely try to follow your steps and implement the knowledge in our lives. Then, I would like to thank Principal Ma'am, Vice Principal Ma'am, and Usha Ma'am for organizing this informative and enriching session. I would also like to thank IT department for all the technical support. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the teachers and wonderful audience for attending this session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure meeting you all. We definitely hope that someday, if you guys can visit the fields, that will be a fun trip too.
Do a school trip over here soon.
We would do a school trip as well. So
thanks for giving us a
excited and
visual
looking
tour.
forward to it.
It was so refreshing.
Bye, sir.
Same here.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, children. Take care. And we'll see you soon.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye, sir.
Bye, everyone.
Have a great day. Bye,
Bye,
sir.
sir.
Bye, sir. Thank you, sir.
Have a happy day.
Yeah.
I don't feel like
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much, Karan
Thank you
sir
very much.
and Abhay sir. It was really a wonderful session, and we are looking forward to visit your farms.
Definitely.
And also we are looking forward to meet you in our school too. So, and guide our children and us teachers for this sustainable farming. We are actually, like, because of this pandemic, I think we couldn't start it, but we are looking forward to it.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Principal Ma'am. Thank you, VP Ma'am. Thank you, all the teachers, all the parents, all the students for attending this session. I hope everyone has enjoyed it. Have a great day ahead.
Yes.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye.
Sir.
Okay, bye. Bye. Take care, sir. Bye.
Bye, ma'am.
Bye. Yes, children, you can leave the meet now. Thank you very much.
Bye, ma'am.
Thank
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, ma'am. Thank